The rain pressed softly against the tall window, as if it too wished to come inside and hear the truth Lady Isabella Montgomery had been avoiding all day. The sky above New York City was gray and heavy, and the narrow street below her father's townhouse glistened with wet stone. Isabella stood still, her hand resting against the cold glass, watching the rain fall in slow lines. She did not cry. She had learned long ago that tears solved nothing. Behind her, a chair scraped across the floor. "Isabella," her father said. "Are you listening to me?" She turned at once. The Earl of Westmoreland looked older than his years now. His shoulders were no longer straight, his eyes no longer proud. Papers lay scattered across his desk like fallen leaves, and in his shaking hand he held a letter sealed with dark wax. "Yes, father," Isabella said calmly. "I am listening." "The Duke of Blackthorn has agreed," he said, lifting the letter as though it were both a blessing and a curse. "The arrangement is settled." Isabella nodded. She had expected this. Still, something tight formed in her chest. "So it is decided," she said. "I am to marry a man I have never met." Her father exhaled slowly. "This marriage will save us. Our debts will be paid. Our name will be restored. Without it, we will lose everything." "And what does the Duke gain?" Isabella asked. "A stranger for a wife?" "He gains a respectable woman from a good family," her father replied. "And he gains a mother for his children." Isabella's fingers tightened in the folds of her blue dress. It was one of the last fine gowns she owned, made before their money vanished. "I have heard things about him," she said quietly. "They say he is cold, that his first wife died and something in him died with her." Her father looked away. "People always told. The Duke is a powerful man, respected, feared. He has lived with honor." "And love?" Isabella asked softly. Her father did not answer. Later that night, Isabella sat before her dressing table while her maid Martha brushed her chestnut hair. Candlelight flickered across the mirror. "Is it true," Isabella asked, "that Blackthorn Manor is a dark place?" Martha hesitated. "My cousin lives near the estate. She says the Duke was once kind, smiled often. But after his wife passed, he became silent. The house followed his mood." "And the children?" "2 little girls. Charlotte is 7. Emma is 5. Quiet children. Kept mostly in the nursery." Isabella's eyes softened. "Children without a mother need warmth. You have always had a gentle heart," Martha said. "Remember the farm children you used to read stories to?" "Yes," Isabella said, "before we lost everything." She lifted her chin. "I did not choose this life, but I will not walk into it weak." The next evening, the grand ballroom of Lady Harrington's home glowed with candlelight. Music floated through the air as Isabella entered on her father's arm. She wore ivory silk embroidered with green thread, her last elegant gown. Whispers followed her. "That is the girl who will marry Blackthorn." Poor thing. Then the room fell quiet. "The Duke of Blackthorn," announced the butler. Isabella looked up. He stood tall and still, dressed in black, his presence heavy and commanding. His dark hair was touched with silver, his gray eyes sharp and distant. His face showed no warmth, no curiosity, only control. When he reached her, he bowed and took her hand. "Lady Isabella," he said, "I trust you understand the arrangement." "I do," she replied. "Good. I do not care for unnecessary talk." His words were calm, but they stung. "You will manage my household and raise my daughters," he continued. "That is all." She met his gaze. "Then we are agreed. This is a business arrangement." "Yes," he said. "Exactly." They danced. His steps were perfect. His touch was careful and distant. "Do you see your daughters often?" she asked. "They are presented to me on Sundays," he said. That is sufficient. Her heart ached for the children she had not yet met. 3 weeks later, in a quiet church, Isabella stood beside him as vows were spoken. His kiss was brief and cold. As they turned away, He leaned close. "My heart died with the mother of my children," he whispered. "Do not expect more." Isabella smiled for the guests, but inside, something hardened. The carriage carried her away from the city toward Blackthorn Manor. The Duke read documents in silence. At dusk, the manor appeared through the trees. Old stone, tall windows. More shadow than light. Inside, servants lined the hall. "Welcome, Your Grace," said the butler. Two little girls waited by the fire. "This is your new Duchess," the Duke said. "She will raise you." Isabella knelt before them. "I am pleased to meet you," she said gently. They curtsied perfectly. That night, Isabella stood alone by her window, staring into the dark grounds. "This house needs light," she whispered, "and those children need love." The Duke believed his heart was dead. Isabella did not. And she would not let this house remain frozen forever. Life at Blackthorn Manor settled into a quiet rhythm, though the silence felt heavy rather than peaceful. Isabella learned quickly that the house followed the Duke's habits. Meals were taken at exact hours. Servants moved softly, speaking only when required. Laughter did not echo in the halls. Even the clocks seemed to tick more quietly than they should. The Duke kept his distance. At dinner, he spoke only of estate matters or business affairs. When the meal ended, he left at once, retreating to his study or riding out before dawn. Isabella did not question him. She observed, listened, and waited. Each morning she visited the nursery. Charlotte greeted her with perfect manners, her back straight, her hands folded. Emma watched her with wide eyes, curiosity fighting with shyness. The governess, Miss Winters, stood close, correcting posture, tone, and every small movement. Isabella did not challenge her at first. She watched how the children behaved, how they spoke only when spoken to, how Emma flinched when she spilled ink, how Charlotte apologized for things that needed no apology at all. One evening, Isabella asked softly, "May I read to you tonight?" Miss Winters frowned. "Their schedule is strict, Your Grace." "Tonight," Isabella said gently but firmly, "I would like to read." She chose a simple story about a brave girl who saved her village through kindness rather than force. As she read, Emma leaned closer. Charlotte listened quietly, but her eyes shone. When the story ended, Emma smiled. "I like that one better." Isabella tucked them in herself. Later that night, a small knock came at her door. Emma stood there in her nightgown, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit. "I wanted to say good night again," she whispered. Isabella knelt and kissed her forehead. "You are always welcome." Something warm stirred in Isabella's chest. This was where she belonged. Weeks passed. Autumn deepened. Isabella brought small changes. Walks in the garden, drawing time, music in the afternoon. Miss Winters objected often, but Isabella never raised her voice. Authority did not need shouting. One afternoon, Emma ran into the library in tears. She took it. Emma sobbed. She said, "I am too old." Isabella knelt at once. What did she take? My rabbit. Isabella went straight to the schoolroom. "Miss Winters," she said calmly, "return it." "It encourages childish attachment," the governess replied stiffly. "She is 5, Isabella said, "and she will have it back." Miss Winters hesitated, then obeyed. That evening, the Duke appeared at Isabella's door. "There was an incident," he said coldly. "There was," Isabella replied evenly. "Your daughter was crying." "I prefer order, and I prefer kindness," Isabella said. "Children need more than rules. You forget your place." "I remember it very well," she answered. "I am their stepmother." For a long moment, he said nothing. They seemed calmer, he admitted finally. "You may continue your visits." It was a small victory, but Isabella felt it deeply. Soon after, the Duke left on business. During his absence, Isabella was asked to attend a charity meeting in his place. Many expected little from her. She surprised them. She spoke with intelligence and quiet confidence. Invitations followed. Respect grew. A gift arrived from the Duke. A fine shawl. No note. Isabella understood. It was acknowledgement. When troubling reports arrived about unsafe conditions at one of the Duke's mines, Isabella did not wait. She traveled there herself. What she saw shocked her. Children worked long hours. Tunnels cracked, air thick with dust. She ordered immediate changes, repairs, shorter hours, better care. When the Duke returned, he was furious. "You exceeded your authority." "I saved lives," Isabella said. He read her reports in silence. "The changes will stand," he said at last. Something shifted between them. Winter came. Isabella suggested Christmas decorations. "At first," he said quietly, "I could not bear them." "Then let us honor her memory," Isabella replied. "Not bury it," he agreed. The house filled with greenery and light. The servants smiled. The children laughed. On Christmas Eve, he watched Charlotte and Emma by the tree. "Your mother loved this season," he said. Later, he gave Isabella a book of poetry. "You quoted it once," he said. "I noticed." She gave him paintings of the children. "Catherine used to sketch them," he said softly. For the first time, he spoke her name aloud. That night, something thawed. And for the first time since her wedding day, Isabella believed that even a frozen heart might still be alive. Spring came slowly to Blackthorn Manor, as if the land itself needed time to trust the warmth again. Buds appeared on bare branches, and pale green spread across the fields. Isabella welcomed the change, sensing that something within the house was shifting as well. The Duke no longer avoided the nursery. At first, his visits were brief and awkward. He stood near the door, hands behind his back, watching Charlotte practice her lessons or Emma draw pictures at the small table. The children stiffened when he entered, but Isabella noticed how his eyes softened when he thought no one was watching. One afternoon, Emma held up a picture. "I drew us," she said. The Duke hesitated, then stepped closer. "You included the roses," he observed quietly. "They were Mama's favorite," Emma said. Something passed across his face, sharp and painful, but he nodded. Yes, they were. That night, Isabella found him standing alone in the garden, staring at the rose bushes now in bloom. "She loved this place," he said without turning. "I let it die." "You were grieving," Isabella replied. "Grief makes people disappear from their own lives." He was silent for a long time. "I thought keeping everything unchanged was respect," he said finally, "but it was fear." Before she could answer, a visitor arrived unexpectedly. James Harlow, the late Duchess's brother, demanded to see the Duke. His arrival brought tension thick enough to taste. "You had no right to let him stay," the Duke said sharply to Isabella. "He deserves to be heard," she replied calmly. "And so do you." Harlow accused him openly, repeating old wounds, old blame. He spoke of letters, of fear, of suspicion. Isabella listened. Then she asked for truth. At last, the Duke broke. He spoke of secret political work, of child labor reform, of time spent in dangerous conditions to gather proof. He spoke of letters Catherine had misunderstood, of silence meant to protect a cause. Harlow did not believe him. Until Isabella suggested the conservatory, they found the diary hidden inside a desk Catherine had loved. Page by page, the truth unfolded. Catherine had not feared betrayal. She had feared losing him. She believed he was slowly killing himself for a cause he never shared with her. She had written in anger, fear, and love. The room fell silent. "I was wrong," Harlow said finally, his voice breaking. "I blamed you because I needed someone to blame." The Duke closed the diary with shaking hands, and I hid from the truth because it hurt too much to face. For the first time in years, Catherine's memory no longer stood between them like a wall. It became a bridge. Harlow left with apologies, and peace he had not known in years. That evening, the Duke sat alone, the diary resting on his knee. "I failed her," he said quietly when Isabella joined him. You loved her, Isabella replied, and love does not vanish because of mistakes. He looked at her then, really looked at her. You brought light back into this house, he said, into my children, into me. He reached for her hand, unsure. She did not pull away. I told you my heart was dead, he continued. I believed it. And now? She asked softly. I was wrong. He kissed her then, not with duty or formality, but with care, with feeling. From that day, the house changed openly. Laughter returned. Meals stretched longer. The Duke walked with his daughters through the gardens, listened to Charlotte play music, allowed Emma to braid his hair with flowers. One afternoon they sat beneath an old oak tree. Emma wore a crown of wildflowers. Charlotte read poetry aloud. Isabella leaned against the Duke's shoulder. I used to think loving again would betray Catherine, he said quietly. Now I know it honors her. Isabella smiled. What began as duty became devotion. What began as silence became truth. And the Duke, who once whispered that his heart belonged to another, now held Isabella's hand openly, knowing his heart had found its way home again.